Vital Signs' Brendon Fallon and entrepreneur Mark Hutchison now talk about how to boost health and performance. They include the example of how a leading American neurosurgeon put his life back on track.
Mark, it's fantastic to have you join us on the show today. I'm really flattered that you're here. You've been following the show for some time, and I know you've had some benefit from it. You're a very successful businessman, I know. Why don't you say a little bit about what you've been doing and what brings you to New York?
Yeah, well, thank you, Brendon. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Been a big fan of the show for many years. In fact, many of the principles that you've shared I've actually adopted into my life, and I'm very, very grateful to be here and say thanks to NTD and to you and your show.
Fantastic. And I know you were telling me that you've gained some knowledge through this show, and some of the things you were saying to me, it really ties into a recent video that we've both watched with this incredible neurosurgeon, Dr. Joseph Maroon.
Joseph, yeah. Yep.
Such a humble man, so accomplished, a neurological consultant for the Philadelphia Steelers. And this man suffered a huge life crisis at the age of 41. So we're going to play this clip, and so the audience can see what this man went through and how he started to get back from that.
Thank you.
I was chief of neurosurgery at the University Hospital in Pittsburgh, and within the course of a week, my father died suddenly at age 60 of a massive heart attack. I was 40 at the time, because I devoted too much effort to my career and to neglecting a few other parts of my life. My marriage broke up, and I had to quit neurosurgery all the same week. So I went from literally doing awake brain surgery on patients with tumors in eloquent parts of the brain to working in a dilapidated truck stop that my father, heavily mortgaged, bequeathed to my mother. So for a year, literally, I was flipping hamburgers and filling up 18-wheelers and wondering, how did this happen to me? I was overweight, and after several months, the banker who held the mortgage on the truck stop called me and said, Joe, let's go for a run. I said, I can't hardly walk up a flight of steps, but I made it down to a high school track in Wheeling. We went around 4 times. I said, never again. But that night was the first night I slept in about several months.
Quite profound to make that discovery, like to go for a run and find that has such a positive effect on mental health. Mm. In line with this, Mark, I know you've faced your own life crisis. I know you've probably faced a number in your life, but one more recently that probably resonates with this a little bit.
Yeah, often you find that the business condition is actually similar to the condition of the entrepreneur that runs it. So if the entrepreneur is out of balance, if he finds himself out of balance physically or spiritually, the business can often mimic that. And I had that this year, year of the snake, where things just broke down. Body broke down, the business broke down. It really was a point of crisis, and I leaned on and had to basically lean on a lot of these principles that you see that Dr. Joe was saying about how to use health, how to use diet, how to use the principles that you talk about in Vital Signs. I've been a big fan for years, and adopting those into my life and not taking them for granted.
What would you say was what would you put as paramount among those principles, just to start off that conversation?
I took a lot away from the research that you have been doing around mental health, and I took a lot of research around what you've been doing around diet and about keto diet. And my family have always talked about insulin resistance, and I think I'd be the poster child for adrenal overload. And that all leads to basically the body breaking down. That's what I found this year, that basically the body started to break down. And by looking after my body and learning some of the principles that I'd seen in the show and following some of these doctors and some of that research, I was able to develop life hacks, like fasting and like talked about better sleep and talking about removing some of the carbohydrates from the diet, and it made a significant and profound effect on my life. And I was able in the last year to basically not only rebuild the body, but actually rebuild my mind. And then from that, I became clear, I feel like I became more intelligent, and I actually was able to have that resilience needed to make decisions. And instead of pushing decisions away from myself, I was actually able to bring everything, own it, fix it, and move forward. And here we are today looking for business opportunities in New York, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for these wonderful principles.
Yeah, astounding. And I like the way it spans from the physical, the kind of surface level health considerations to something almost on a soul level. We'll play a clip again from Dr. Maroon, and I think this ties into what you're saying about how the body can play that role in bringing health to the mind, and vice versa.
We know the mind can make the body very sick, heart attacks, strokes, irritable bowel syndrome, but the body can heal the mind.
What was happening?
And what was happening is I was rebooting my neurotransmitters. I was getting my serotonin up and my acetylcholine, my memory was improving naturally, without drugs, without pharmacologic agents. After the course of a year, I had lost weight. I was able to, my brain started to work again, and I completely changed my own dietary habits and my lifestyle. I realized that I was burned out when I was working.
This phenomenon, I actually asked Dr. Maroon about this, like what is burnout exactly? We hear this term so much these days in society, and he talked about this, I believe, this kind of exhaustion across all domains, physical, mental, and losing this enthusiasm for life.
I think entrepreneurs, you've always got a lot of decisions to make, and you're always under a lot of pressure. And if the body is basically unhealthy, I found that by focusing back this year on making my body healthy, getting good sleep, reducing the amount of carbs, looking at this intralistins, looking at the adrenal overload, getting all the basics back in life. When I saw the interview with Dr. Joseph, I thought that's my life, right there, and that's the life of many entrepreneurs. They focus on trying to win, trying to prove themselves. A lot of entrepreneurs are trying to prove themselves and just trying to bring everything back into balance. And for me, it was about getting my life back into balance by also having a bit more faith, having a bit more time for the body, having a bit more time to eat well, having more time to reflect. And in that process, it's been quite the remarkable journey. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's. I think we have a tendency, people who are ambitious and have this expectation of high achievement, to sometimes distract ourselves with things. There's a deeper issue there. It might be trauma. It might be some kind of pain, and we put these other things in front of us. I've got to meet this deadline, and I've got to get this done. I've got to meet this financial target, and it's a kind of a distraction from dealing with the deeper issue in a lot of ways, I think.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs, you look at them, they've actually faced trauma, and a lot of them are actually trying to prove themselves, and that was me, 100% the key. Early childhood trauma, wanting to prove myself, and you get this thing called the imposter syndrome, and you'll see that spread around, and it actually is a real thing where you basically end up distracting yourself with all these micro things. We're not actually dealing with the things that matter. And for this year, the journey has been to be quiet and resilient, and getting my body back and getting my physical health back has strengthened my mind and made me more clear. And it made me realise there's so many habits and so many things that I do that are basically sabotaging myself. And it's being able to clear those things out. So I just focus on the mind, I don't focus on the body, I can't fix it. If I can focus on the body but not on the mind, I can't fix it. When I get that whole thing in balance and go back to faith and do my meditation and reflection and seeing what's the cause, what's my cause in the problem. I've been able to shift mountains this year, build a brand new factory in Vietnam, a whole lot of great stuff, even being a single parent with a couple of kids, being able to do it and in balance by bringing these life hacks, and a lot of that knowledge has come from this wonderful network, and especially from your show.
I appreciate you saying that, Mark. It's one of the things that you mentioned, talking about quiet time, that stood out to me, and for me, it's recently, over the past year as well, was finding that space just to let myself sit and ground myself. And then, after a period of time, these instincts start to kick back in for how to look after myself better and adopt a better lifestyle, healthier lifestyle. Here, we have Dr. Maroon talking, I believe, about fear, this next clip, and how this affects the body. And this is a pervasive phenomenon in society.
So when you become overstressed, your body, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, turns on your adrenal glands to make excess cortisol and also excess adrenaline epinephrine. And when these are at high levels for prolonged periods of time, literally destroys brain cells in your hippocampus that subserves memory. Your memory goes, and it also affects your decision-making, your attention, and clearly contributes to neurodegenerative disease, chronic, unremitting stress.
It's something that I've personally dealt with, and again, I think getting into that quiet space, you start to have some separation from these feelings of anxiety. I don't know if you've had an experience along those lines, Mark.
I think fear is the backbone of a lot of entrepreneurial drive. But I've come to realise that it's actually a negative. fear is obviously you're trying to control the situation, and I come to understand that we can't really control too much. But the fear was driving me into this state of adrenal overload where I actually was, the whole body was being broken down, my mental clarity was being broken down. So getting back to actually reflection and standing back. So one of the things I had a sort of health crisis when we were over in Europe this year, and I came back and said, I'm not going back to work every day, because entrepreneurs are trying to prove themselves. They're going, I've got to be the busiest guy in the room, I've got to be the most important guy in the room. And I said, no, I've got to step back from that. I've got to empower other people. I've got to step back and have that time to reflect and see what's my cause in things. And that reflection and that identifying that fear and that imposter syndrome in the last sort of 5 to 6 months has been revolutionary for me, where I can actually turn that back into a positive and see all these negative things as actually positive things. And that's where we've been able to get some amazing breakthroughs, both in the team and the family and in my health.
It's fantastic to hear. Is there anything else you'd like to add as far as what these kind of life hacks that you've adopted to improve your health and improve your performance?
Yeah, I often find myself sending your segments or clips from your segments to my management team. Everything from getting to bed by 10 o'clock, by 10:30, that was a game changer for me. Getting up early, doing meditation, that was a game changer for me. Getting in time, making time to stop and reflect. Even some of the things around seed oils and wheat and carbohydrate loading, all that, as soon as I tested those things, I was able to immediately have an immediate and positive reaction on my body. So these things have actually, entrepreneurs are always trying to be their optimum. They're always trying to be high performers. And by adopting these principles, I've been able to basically become back to the high performer I was when I first started, before I broke myself down with fear, anxiety and stress.
Fantastic story, Mark, and it's really great to have that feedback, to know how that these tips and speaking to these experts is actually reaching people and they're benefiting from it. And really great to have you join us today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to this wonderful network. We appreciate it. Love being here.
And we'll go back to Chris now in the studio. And this full video is available to see on the Vital Signs website.
To see that full interview with Dr. Maroon, just go to your web browser and enter ept.ms/brainsaver.